Good evening, Valeriy Viktorovich.
Good evening.
Good evening, dear viewers, radio listeners, and guests in the studio. Today is August 19, 2019. Let's begin with the question that is popular in mass media today. Valeriy Viktorovich, you have been asked to comment on Trump's intention to purchase Greenland. Is it possible at all, from the point of view of contemporary international law?
First of all, Trump didn't express an intention to purchase Greenland. He was exploring the possibility of executing such a transaction, and if there is any interest from the other side. He said it himself. This attention to Greenland's purchase is interesting itself. If a person understands the essence of state's existence as a social structure. Without such an understanding, what is the purpose of state? How does state function? Someone may say Trump went mad. It is a joke. For example, Prime Minister of Greenland said, "I strongly hope it is a joke." What if it isn't? I strongly hope. Who talks like that? So we will discuss it a little bit. We have a book about state. State is a system of nation's survival without loss of its cultural identity. To provide the functionality of the contemporary state, it is necessary to have no less than 10 million people population in that state. If the population is less than 10 million, the state cannot provide a minimal technological level to function as a contemporary state without external forces. If the population is of 10 million people or more, and there is an appropriate governance, then the state can, with certain expenses and hardships, function as a contemporary state, examples of which are Hungary, Cuba, Yemen, and other countries. Yemen seems to be a real nothing. No way it could withstand Saudi Arabia. Everybody was saying Saudi Arabia is the strongest country in the Arab world. They have the toughest army. But whose cities took care of them for the most part? Why? Because Yemen has necessary population mass, and expenses of the national state's existence can be balanced by losses of that population. Future development of Yemen is also assured overall by its population mass. What is Denmark? Denmark has 5 million people of population. What about Greenland? 60,000. What can you do with 60,000? Maybe Denmark with its 5 million people can hold up against a single US aircraft carrier group? Even if we take the sixth priority of governance, the simplest one, based on which the world has been developing. Again, we have the book War, where everything that we discuss here is described much more extensively and complete. Our books, State and War, are intertwined in this aspect. No, Denmark cannot take a stand against the USA on the sixth priority of governance. Can Denmark resist the US economic pressure? Let's take a look at Russia. The more sanctions are applied to Russia, the better is the Russian economy in the long run. Oligarchs are suffering exclusively, but the Russian state, for better or for worse, restores its industries and restores its sovereignty as a result of those sanctions. What will happen to Denmark's state if sanctions are imposed on it? Therefore, what is the reason of the interest in buying Greenland? To be honest, there is no difference in how a cession of any given territory will be executed. For example, Americans purchased Louisiana from France in 1800. Today there are several states located on that territory, not only the state of Louisiana. Shevardnadze gave away the Russian water area in the Pacific to Americans, for no good reason, just for fun of it. Dmitry Medvedev wanted so much to suck up to Americans, he gave away the Russian water area in the Arctic Ocean to Norway. Do you want some piece of Russia? Take it. Russia will not become poor. But what is the meaning of Medvedev's actions for Russia? It means he dramatically worsens Russia's stand within different forces in the Arctic region. Norway is the country of the Arctic Council. And Medvedev sharply deteriorated Russia's stand at the Russia's expense. He eagerly wanted to serve Americans, so he decided to just give away Russian territories left and right. That is why it is not important how the transfer procedure will be executed. If such a plan exists, it will be consummated as needed. There is no difference what century it is, 19th or 21st. Why is literature considered a classic? Because there is a belief that human doesn't change and the human psychology doesn't change. The technological environment changes, but different problem-solving fashion remains the same. In Western mentality, war was a way of redemption. It was and remains an option for obtaining resources that were produced by someone else. Only Russia stands by its word. The West and the East are the same. They stand by their word only if they don't have power to break it. Agreements are kept only by those who don't have enough power to break it. Their motivation is always our self-interest. If they got a desire, they act on it. So the US wanted to invade Grenada. Did they hesitate? No. They wanted to do it, they invaded. They wanted to capture Venezuela and appointed their resident, Guaido. However, it didn't work this time. Why? The US didn't have enough leverage. The situation has changed. The United States already stuck in so many problems that it is running out of available resources now. But the US as a state can overpower Denmark as a state with ease. The US will make an offer and Denmark will accept it. No one will ask an opinion of 60,000 of Greenland's local population. Paperwork will be flawless. I was talking about the Arctic region. Denmark is a member of the Arctic Council because it has Greenland. The United States will have a completely different negotiating position on the Arctic region's parceling if Greenland goes under control of the US. What is the problem with the Arctic region anyway? Why is there a fight for the Arctic shelf? Why are borders being discussed in that region? If Medvedev says, I don't care, take all natural resources away, Russia has a lot of it. and gives territories left and right. But Putin, no, Putin fights for his point of view. What is the problem? The truth is, the change of climate zones is taking place at this time, and everyone feels it regardless of his location on the planet Earth. Neither global warming nor global freezing, it is the changing of climate zones that is taking place. Comfortable places for living for the last almost 2000 years will become uncomfortable, and uncomfortable places today will become very comfortable. This change is accompanied by big turbulence, extreme weather everywhere, sudden droughts, storms, and all kinds of things are happening on the planet. However, there is a certain trend that explains why all countries grapple for the Arctic region. The thing is, the Arctic has started to lose its ice cap. And year-round navigation is an issue of the nearest future. Of course, in the beginning, this year-round navigation will be supported by icebreakers, but it will occur. Year-round navigation dramatically shortens the transit time from Europe, for example, to Japan or China. And most importantly, this navigation ensures security. There is no contest in security between the Arctic route, next to Europe and Russia coastlines, and the route around Africa, where another ship was just seized by pirates, or through the Strait of Malacca, where pirates are active also. The Arctic route is known as a safe route, and all countries, one way or another, investigate the agenda, how to rob Russia of this natural advantage. During the Soviet era, according to American military doctrine, Wrangel Island, Russian island, Soviet back then, was considered an area of operative action of the American armed forces, with plans to establish an American military base on the island within first hours of military confrontation. The Soviet Union couldn't build anything on the island because Khrushchev killed Stalin's project of Arctic development. Americans could make it happen. Alaska was given to the US with the same intention. You can read about Alaska in our book War. So, what did Putin do? Putin restored Stalin's project of Arctic development, but with the contemporary technology level corrections. And now the Arctic Ocean, which is legally Russian, is under the protection of the Russian armed forces. The Arctic Ocean is our internal waters now. Naturally, Americans are not pleased. They were going to utilize the Arctic Ocean without regard to Russia, but Russia closed that territory. That means Americans cannot ignore Russia. They have to take Russia into account. What else can Americans do? They have only 2 icebreakers left, with the one icebreaker being operational exclusively at the expense of the second icebreaker, which has been cannibalized for parts and became a collection of scrap metal. The operational icebreaker has regular breakdowns, and the second icebreaker serves as a donor of spare parts for the first one. The US actually has 1 icebreaker. Russia has 40, and even more are being built. And here's the question. Russia cannot be pushed back. But China, when talking about New Silk Road, for some reason constantly, with certain pressure, states that the Arctic route should be under Chinese jurisdiction. And the Chinese are building icebreakers. They are making a case for using the Arctic route without permission from Russia and are planning to introduce Chinese order there. Why China counts on that? They hope that Russia will lose its subjectivity as a subject of global politics when Putin leaves, and the new president, Medvedev, will readily sell Russia out. And here Greenland fits perfectly. At first, Greenland had belonged to Norway. Then Greenland was transferred under Denmark control. Then Greenland got wide autonomy. Denmark provides all technological support for the state. If Denmark stops providing Greenland with the functioning statehood, then 60,000 of Greenland population won't be able to uphold the technology level. That is a given. And the next question here, what is happening with the United States? Can it buy Greenland? No, it cannot. The United States is in the reformatting process itself. It has a huge budget deficit, and there is no money even for operational expenses. So what is the hassle around quote-unquote buying Greenland? The word buying is in quotes because the transfer can be made by different ways. Can be bought, here's the money, as much as you want, and on top of that you can keep your autonomy as same as you had under Denmark. There can be used other options. We do have the base there, don't we? The issue around Greenland is this. The center of governance concentration is being transferred from the United States and Great Britain to China mainly. And from Europe mostly to Iran. However, if the transfer to China is going more or less according to the plan, the transfer to Iran is going nowhere. The global elite cannot give China full carte blanche to govern the world. They don't want to create another super monster similar to the United States and fight with China later, as with a mad dog. Expenses of that scenario are too high. Just look at the United States, which smashes in the area of global politics with its statehood and its foreign policy. I repeat, the change of climate zones is taking place, and the Arctic region, frozen in the past, is destined to be unfrozen. That means Greenland can live up to its name, and this is the nearest historical perspective, but not the next year's perspective, when the mild thick ice cap would melt, of course. But what can we observe in Greenland? There is a Chinese capital in Greenland. Chinese governance is already there. Greenland is rich in natural resources, and no one is going to give it to China. The unfrozen island will be comfortable for life, approximately as New Zealand. Only approximately, this is not a direct analogy. Greenland is a place with pure ecology, rich in natural resources. By controlling those resources, the owner would be in a position to dictate his will to China as well. Accordingly, what is the government task on the agenda today? While the United States is on its last leg, Greenland must be grabbed from Denmark's control, taken under the global governance to avoid aggression towards the United States. There should be created a new state subject of any kind. It can only be an engineered state, not a historic one. The United States itself is an engineered state.
But engineered states may exist for a long time. For example, Poland, destined to disappear, by the way, Romania, Belgium.
There is Europe, with its territory being designated for the creation of the European Islamic Caliphate. This plan hasn't been cancelled, it has just been postponed. And the reason for that is the embryonic stage of the governance concentration center in Iran. But Russia is the subject of global politics, and under Putin's governance is conducting global politics. Greenland must not be given away under Chinese control. What should be done to achieve that? The superstate governance should control the dosed usage of natural resources on the planet Earth, and accordingly, China should not have direct access to natural resources of Greenland. China should do it through some subject that will formally control Greenland's natural resources. Besides, I repeat, Greenland is a pure place ecologically, comfortable for habitation of the global elite. So what has Trump done? He launched a discussion of this very problem, and based on the social reaction, on the reaction of governance systems on the planet Earth, in order to solve exactly this problem. Greenland must be managed in such a way that China won't get it under its control. It must be a separate subject. There is a parallel task of empowering the United States within countries of the Arctic Council. The global predictor tries to solve to the maximum the problem of pushing Russia off from the Arctic region and allow access for other players to the Arctic, for example, agreement with China. China has an interest in Greenland, and there is a common goal of pressuring Russia and taking the Arctic route from Russian control. Russia would use it, but would have to pay for it to China, for example. That means no one considers Russia as a subject of global politics. With this breakdown, Greenland is a very serious matter. The kidding is over. The thought form has been thrown into, and now the feedback is being read. Who and how reacts to it? Then the decision will be made, what to do and how. Trump executed his role with flying colors.